Thank you so very much for tuning in for our panel discussion on turning data into dollars. And we've got experts joining in, sharing their views and their experiences. But the best way to connect with them is through your questions. So please do pour in those questions for our speakers right here. Our session will be moderated by Mr. Sachin Arora, Partner and Head, Lighthouse Analytics, AI and Big Data, KPMG in India. Let me also present to you our panel. We have with us Ms. Aparna Gupta, Executive Director, Customer Success, Microsoft. A very warm welcome to Mr. Byju Joseph, CTO, Future Generali, India Life Insurance. May I also present to you Mr. Mayuresh, Purandare, Head IT Infrastructure and Security, Marico. A very warm welcome to Mr. Sanjay Mishra, Head IT CIO, L&T Constructions. May I also present you Mr. Surya Narayan Singh, Chief Technology Infrastructure, NPCI. And let me now hand over to Mr. Arora to take the proceedings further. Sir, all yours.
Thank you, Isha, and good morning, everyone, and pleasure to be here and moderating this session with such an enlightened panel and a good platform. So a little background about me. I'm a partner and I head the analytics practice and the cloud practice for KPMG in India. I've been part of companies which are built on cloud. I was heading the analytics business for Amazon Web Services in India before joining KPMG. So pretty much close to both the subjects of today of data and cloud put together. As the digital age is well upon us and we examine the exciting times we're living in, we can recognize that the era of data and analytics is booming, with many industries and organizations converting data into dollars. While some are still grappling to harness this true power, some of the other ones have really unleashed data into growing their top line and consolidating their bottom lines and growing profitably. While all the organizations are generating and collecting more data than ever before, very few have been successful in converting this data to drive a solid impact out of it. So today we will discuss with the industry leaders on how have they achieved the same, or which part of the process or the journey that they are in converting data into profitability or growth. So let me first invite Mr. Surya Narayan Singh, Deputy Chief Technology Infrastructure at NPCI. Good morning, sir. First question for you. Cloud for cost reduction. So application and data that you move to the cloud, how has the journey been? What are some of the key challenges that you faced?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for extending this opportunity. Unfortunately, I had to travel to a very remote part of the country. So please bear with me with the ambience and all. Maybe I may break on the network also. But it's a very good question, Sachin. Our journey with NPCI for cloud started in late 2016. I think almost everybody may be remembering the one incident which happens in Indian economic and Indian history only once. That was a demonetization. So right before that, we had taken a call to set up a private cloud. That private cloud was supposed to be host only non-production data. However, we received a mandate from the government that within 15 days we are going live with Bhim. Bhim is one of the payment system. As of now, you may be aware, like the Paytm, Google, and all. Slightly different way it works. Like Paytm and all, your wallet goes with you, while with Bhim, your bank goes with you. Okay. So within 15 days, all government said either you take whatever manpower you need to buy something, but 2 weeks is the time you need to go live. So within 2 weeks, we made it happen. We transitioned our that non-production workload cloud infra to the production workload, and that was the starting of the journey. And over four and a half years, I can proudly say as of now, more than 80 to 90% of my workload, be it RuPay, applications and web servers, be it UPI, be it BBPS, and be it except the CTS, that is a check transaction system that is not live on cloud. Otherwise almost all the payment systems, digital payment systems of NPCI runs on the private cloud. We do have certain legacy database still. I mean, I should not say legacy, but yes, Oracle is outside the cloud as of now. Beyond that, we are predominantly on the open source database. It's a Postgres. Now, recently we have adapted with the Cassandra and all. UPI, you all might be aware, we are clocking 1 billion transactions, and now we have a transition that set up to clock a 1 billion a day transactions. So this was our journey for the cloud, and in between we have adopted the public cloud also. Some of the non-critical workloads we run from there, and we are in a process to use the massive data that is generated by virtue of this digital payments, and we will be shortly announcing and leveraging that data for the research purpose for the nations, like for the startups and all. And now we have also initiated the hybrid cloud journey, right, or a multi-cloud, both in the private cloud area as well as in the public cloud. On a public cloud, we do have an active setup with AWS and Google. With Microsoft Azure, that is in a pipeline, and maybe in next 6 to 9 months, these three top player will be in place. Oracle is also in pipeline, but we have kept it at the last because our vision is not too much to go on Oracle. Predominantly restrict to these top three. And on our private cloud, we do have a VMware based stack private cloud as of now. We are setting the open source based open stack private cloud. So that way we do have a mix of a private hybrid as well as multi-cloud also. Hope I answered.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. And I really love the way you mentioned the way your journey has been from the private cloud to getting into the hybrid and the multi-cloud strategy, including some of the public cloud provider names that you mentioned. And has that improvised, let's say, your cost production or productivity, Mr. Surya?
Yeah, of course. If I tell you at the rough number, I mean, TCO has been decreased by like maybe around 50%, while ROI has been increased by approx 50%.
Wonderful. This is very strong numbers, and really congratulate you for kind of getting onto this journey early upon. Let me now invite Mr. Byju Joseph, the Chief Technology Officer for Future Generali Life India Life Insurance. Mr. Byju, how has the data journey been for your organization? What have you used data as a critical driver for company growth, and kind of a top line number for that?
Thank you, Arora, and thank you for inviting me to this particular forum. Great to share some of the experiences. Well, what we went through with the data is, we try to track and attack the use case based, problem solving aspects. So we didn't want to boil the ocean, because we collected data, we collect, gather, maintain and archive data, but if I don't utilize it for a purpose, it doesn't mean anything. So we wanted to identify business problems and solve them. But before coming into, solving use cases, we wanted to prepare our data. We call it as, data curation. So we then spent enough time in curing the data and, ensuring that those problems, business problems or use cases, were facing towards growth or risk. We are in the financial services. So we wanted to ensure that the business which we enter into, or a new business which we enter into, is risk aversions are being very clear, right? So we want to identify the risk associated with that, where we use the data very predominantly. So in terms of, I start with data curation. So data curation was, very intensive exercise to ensure to get a clean data in place of a customer profile or their financial informations in the right way, to ensure that we predict the, you can actually envisage, giving a loan instantly or giving a policy instantly. To give a policy instantly, we go, very data intensive process behind the risk identifications in behind. For that, okay, we put bright, people behind to ensure data is curated and put in right place, the right way. And so that actually helped us to put the models, there are multiple models in place, and, probably years of experience goes into building that model. Today, I can say it's 3 to 3.5 years of, efforts materialized today, because when we started, data quality was a problem. We stopped it we ensure the data qualities has been put in place. Second, when you put a model, it gives you a lot of informations out. We need to know really how to score them and make use of that scoring to finally make a decisions, right? And that doesn't come to day one. It's over a period of time, and we completely implemented a learning based or continuous improvement, continuous learning based models in place. We're using these data. So predominantly, Future Generally doesn't boil the ocean. So we go by use cases. We understand the value out of that use cases we need to solve, and we attack that. And business starts seeing the value. We come, you have more and more use cases coming on your bucket and solve them. But at any given point in time, your pipeline to solve the problem would be higher and higher, right? I mean, because you have a lower resources, number of resources, capable resources, and you have more problem to solve. So that's the way the approach we've been used. And if there is no value out of solving a problem, we don't even venture into.
Wonderful. I really love the way you explained, the amount of data crunching that is required to give a policy instantly, and that customer 360 that you may need to work upon. How has cloud been able to be an enabler for you, Mr. Byju, in doing this heavy lifting exercise?
Sure. So we use very simple. We have core insurance like every insurance. We have core insurance systems, and we ship the real-time data to the cloud, and we use predominantly Azure cloud. We use data, data factories to ship the information in real time to cloud, and we really store all these informations. I call it as data lake because the raw data just pump in there. Okay. So and then our the data team, curation team, actually curate this information and store necessary places for the specific use cases. We don't curate everything because it is worthless curating everything, just to curate it. But to solve the business cases, we curate them in the cloud, and we predominantly use Azure stacks fully.
Wonderful. And would you like to explain some of the tangible, intangible business benefits that you have realized during this data analytics journey?
Yeah, really. Surely. So predominantly one of the use cases I can just see the benefits here is we wanted to do a risk aversion. So that means when a customer onboard, we ensure them to be coming on the video and do the risk, main risk underwriting on the video itself. So that means we need to have a video stream going into our cloud, right? I mean, today edge computing is still not that capable to handle the bit of analytics on the edge level. So we have to stream this video to the Azure cloud and do liveness checks, fraud checks, whatever that healthy, the BMI checks and everything real time, and ensure this data which is historically maintained, curated data of risk is being real time executed on the parallel to what we are underwrite these persons, right? So our job was to ensure two things. One is give a better customer experience. Okay, that means how do I measure the customer experience? The NPS score from -10 to today +35. Customer experience of my onboarding of customer experience been very huge transformations. Which wouldn't have been happening. We would have not envisaged this particular data insights work. Second area, we wanted to ensure that risk aversion. That means we are in the business of promising, something goes wrong in their life, we will be there to support you, right? We want to ensure customers to be, not coming for us to just do a fraud, claims, right? I mean, we are here promise many things, so people comes with many intentions. So we want to show the right intentions are there. The protection is the intention, and we adjudicate them to ensure that we give the policy for that only. So all these controls checks, risk aversion is our business, and we are adjudicating 96.8% of the policies claims have been adjudicated very easily without any problem. So we could avert these frauds. That's the ROI, rather than just saying growth about it. Okay.
Wonderful. I think data helps in both directions towards growth as well as risk aversion. And I think some of the critical points that you brought, that how you've been able to prevent fraud basis the data lake on Azure platform that you guys have built, and how it has been, helpful for the organization for the overall risk aversion. And 96.8% is a fairly large, good number to kind of reach the settlement without much of issues. So congratulations for that, Mr. Byju. Maybe call upon next Mrs. Aparna Gupta, Executive Director, Customer Success for Microsoft. Aparna, why is agility in operations and business models becoming imperative, and how is data analytics coupled with AI and enabling intelligence alongside agility and resilience meeting the ROI is important? So.
I think agility had already started to become, all pervasive across industries, even before COVID hit, right? And I think COVID just kind of accelerated that whole thing, and the ability of organizations to kind of respond, recover, and reimagine. And even today, as we speak, I think the organizations are adapting and changing their operations and business models. So I think the what is in it for agility is, no longer even a question, kind of side by side to resiliency, and the enablers. I would say the data AI piece is actually an enabler, right? Because end of the day, it is about, how can you predict or anticipate things? How do you minimize risk? I think, both Surya, and actually both my panelists and Byju, touched upon a couple of things that resonated very well, right? A, it's a journey. There is no instant fix. Right? B, at the end of the day, there's a problem you're trying to solve, or there is a ROI that you are looking to get. And then, how do you actually navigate through that? So end of the day, if you're able to mitigate risk, you're able to optimize your efficiency, you are enabling to go digital as much as possible. Those are some of the things that have been a part of the journey, as we talk to our customers. Coming to your specific question on the data analytics and AI, I think it really has become ranging from existential to some organizations to just being more resilient. And the foundation has been about whether an organization wants to understand the market they are in, just what's happening in the industry, what's happening with their own people. I mean, it could even be everything from hiring to wellness, even internally, right, inside their organizations, to their supply chain, which is like almost like a bread and butter for most businesses. So it has been pervasive across the board. And if I just reflect back, I think some key ingredients that we see as a pattern, I think one is just how comprehensive and connected your data sets are, right? So whether it is structured data, unstructured data, very real-time data from IoT-enabled devices to maybe something that's sitting in your archive over the years, just intelligence you have kind of collected over period, and how are you meaningfully able to put it all together to derive insights in a timely manner, and such that you can act upon it, right? Because that's when it actually gives you the ROI. And again, I'll go back to the example Byju had, right? That end of the day, if you're making a business connect to all this investment that you did, that's when the rubber hits the road. So that's typically a pattern that we have seen consistently. And maybe I'll just give a couple of examples very quickly on, to just to illustrate what I said. I think one is a cloud native organization like Myntra, right? Now, Myntra has been in this business for forever. And in about 2019, they worked with us to completely modernize and transform their supply chain management and inventory solution on Azure. We were able to move it all in 9 months on Synapse and HD Insights in particular to give them the limitless scale, stabilization of services. And they actually helped make our product better also and pushed us to scale. The interesting thing is that as COVID happened, they continued what some of you may know as an end of reason sale, which they do twice in the year. And over the last 3 or 4 cycles that we have had, the scale is just increasing. But in COVID times, it just hit the roof, which is kind of understandable because more and more people were probably buying online. But the interesting part was that this foundation of data and AI also enabled them to help their leading brands to offer what consumers wanted almost in a real-time way. So it was not about, the initial part that they signed up for, which was scale, limitless, capability, going up, going down in, sale and non-sale periods and all that, but also how they were able to respond to a situation like this. The second example I'll bring is a little more, a very different industry, which is healthcare, right? So Narayan Health has been kind of working again with us to democratize patient data all around with the thematic to to enable affordable, accessible, and quality care. Now, in that case, and it really fascinates me when they talk about Dr. Devi Shetty talks about some aspects like even how they optimized and made their operations efficient. So. Once they started leaning more on data and AI enabled solutions, 70% reduction in internal reporting, 50% reduction in internal leadership meetings to go through data. I mean, these are real operations metrics that you won't normally think about hospitals and how it would drive the doctors more time to be in front of the patients, which is what they really do. To staff forecasting, so when is it okay to be a little over or under based on the patient volume that they expected. So just having that predictability and planning to enhancing lab operations where it could be multiple data points and if it's an X-ray, let me take X-ray as an example, that with their learned models of X-ray, they are able to quickly pinpoint normal and abnormal X-rays. And guess what? I mean, the kind of ROI that they talk about, which is like 60% increase in efficiency, less than 2 hours for them to analyze and have a result, which then they can go and text with, have a text chat with the patient to decide on the next steps, even if, let's say, the doctor is remote. I mean, these are all real examples that we are living in the world today. Both allude to the agility on one hand that some of these organizations showed and what they were able to do very quickly with data analytics as well as AI.
Wonderful examples, Aparna. Really like the way you explained. Agility is not just about IT infrastructure and ability to scale up, scale down. It's also important to use this agility when we're on the cloud for responding to business problems and client and customer needs, and how quickly Myntra was able to do and being agile and resilient towards the client requirements during the end of season sales and otherwise. So, more than just the IT operations, it's also about responding to customers is where, the cloud and data has come together to help. And of course, the other example where you talked about how being on cloud and using some of the data analytics services, a hospital can make doctors spend more time with the patients rather than spending a lot in the operations and improving the whole, kind of customer experience there. Another point that I really want to kind of little dive deep here is how's your organization supporting data security with, of course, this cutting edge AI and data analytics coming about to this age. There are some organizations which are apprehensive of putting data on cloud. So how do you see security catching up ever than before in current times?
You want me to answer that?
If you can maybe
sure,
pick up.
I wasn't sure because I just want to make sure we are inclusive.
Sure.
Everyone gets a chance. I will keep it short so that I'm definitely curious to hear from my eminent panelists as well. So I think to start with our philosophy, and I'm sure most of you have or are already thinking about it, starts from a zero trust framework. Like, you really need to start with never trust, always verify, right? And just to elaborate a little, so this model assumes that there has been a breach, right? And it so verifies each request as if it is originated from some open network. And what that does is that every access is like fully authenticated, authorized, encrypted, so we get kind of the same level of diligence applied to every single request that happens, right? So that I think is really, I would say, the core of how we think about security at this point. Now, then there are the elements of security that it's not security alone. There is compliance, there's identity, there's management. So how do you think about it in an integrated way? Even more so in today's world where, it's like remote everything. You have your organization assets, non-organization assets. I mean, I have a customer who was telling me that when from an IT-enabled organization, that when we come back to work, like I want it to be a seamless experience for my employee, even whether he or she is carrying his personal laptop. Right? I don't want them to get stopped at the gate because my productivity gets hampered. Right? So these are all real questions and problems that our customers are trying to solve as we speak. So that is what brings the philosophy part, and towards that is then what we are building in terms of a suite of products around security. So whether it's Sentinel, it's Defender, that's really the aspiration. And maybe one quick example I'll give there is Mindtree, who they've recently just embraced the entire integrated security experience from Microsoft for its global workforce. So whether you are in India or any other part of the world, how does the employee get productive? There's access to mobility, security, compliance with their own customers, no matter what project and customer that they're working with in any part of the world. So that's, I would say, at the Uber level where security, philosophy and how we are looking at it. Specific to data AI, since that's the conversation we are having today, I think there it is more about, just even getting your head around what does it mean around security, where your data could be disparate, there is sensitive, non-sensitive. We are getting into personal data privacy. I mean, the BDP bill as we speak, even in India context. So how do you even identify what are those areas that you need to cover from a security perspective? And then that's the first part. So just discovery, right? So something that helps you discover all aspects of security. And then the second, which is that how do you take action on those? And I think so where potentially you get control over even down to a single cell in a table of a very comprehensive data set to an entire data set that needs to be secure. So that is again where, I can go on in terms of the offerings, but maybe one example I'll just quickly give is the Synapse Analytics that we have, which provides a security model that gives you that level of fine-grained control that you need at a data level. And then, of course, there are governance models like Purview that we are just, getting into conversation with our customers. A whole discussion for maybe another day. I'll just pass it back to you so that, we can.
Wonderful explanation, Aparna. And I can, endorse your statement 100%, given that, we use Synapse Analytics for some of the KPMG customers that we work with on the Azure platform. And all what you mentioned is currently that we execute for our customers, and completely agree with you. Besides that, I really also want to accentuate the point of shared responsibility of data when you're on cloud. Of course, the cloud service providers like Microsoft and others provide best of class services to securitize your data. It's also the shared responsibility of the client and the customer or the owner of the data, which is you, to really kind of lock the data using the encryption services. Many of the data leaks that I know are actually a failure of not being data not being encrypted and locked in a proper way. It's like living in an apartment, right? While you have the best security outside your home, but what if you don't just lock your door? So while the cloud service providers have a huge role to play in giving you those services, it's equally a responsibility of the owner of the data to make sure that they have locked that access from their own gates. And now moving to Mayuresh. Mayuresh is the head of IT and infrastructure and security at Marico. Mayuresh, benefits of moving to the cloud. What are some of the long-term versus short-term quick wins, and what and how do you pick those while you're picking up the journey to cloud?
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me here. So, in Marico, what we have started doing is for a few years now, we are already on the multi-cloud, and multi-cloud is the way for us for the same reasons that we discussed throughout the panel discussion, right? The reduction in cost, agility, and every cloud has a different, the USP, and we have to identify that as a customer. So we have actually targeted some of those, low-hanging area fruits that we can actually pick up from each cloud provider. Just to give you some examples, right? So we are all, predominantly on a private cloud with TCL. So TCL has created a private cloud for us where we, set up our core systems. Then, since we are also on Microsoft Azure, right? We are also on Office 365, right? So why don't we use the entire identity management and the security on Azure? So the entire that identity management, the security part, we have moved to Azure, right? So because that is the USP of that particular cloud. since we are on Microsoft identities, right? So then we started leveraging that for all our applications, so connection to the third-party applications, right? So OAuth and SAML, right? So all of that is now happening in Microsoft Azure. Then we also work with multiple business partners or multiple business verticals within Marico. Like we have a digital business, we have a sales transformation. So these people, they also want to grow their brands, they want to grow their digital sales. So they work with multiple startups, multiple analytics providers, right? So we don't go to them and say, don't go to them, come to us, we will only provide you solutions, right? So what we tell them is, you can work with any of them. We will not call it as a shadow IT, right? We will support that. But only thing is, the entire cloud, let us manage, right? So we create a cloud for them. We carve it out for them, and then they work within that particular part of the cloud, right? So for that, we have already on AWS. So because some vendors are, comfortable with AWS. So we say, no problem. We will give you that platform, right? So that is something happening. Like we were discussing about the Azure Synapse, right? So we are already there on Azure Synapse for data, the cubes that we are making, the data analytics that we are doing. We are on Azure Synapse. We are also now looking at BigQuery for some of the use cases that we have to work with Google, right? So we are recently we also tied up with IBM Cloud. So one of the key use cases that we found in IBM Cloud is, their stack is completely on open source. So whatever you want open source, they are having, out of box. So when I compare, I need some VMs or some workloads on Microsoft ecosystem, I have Azure. If I need something open source, I have IBM. I need something on analytics, I have Microsoft and Google. So in that way, we have created that ecosystem for that agility, and at the same time, saving some cost, like the private cloud versus public cloud. To be honest, in my view, I heard NPCI saying they could actually save a lot of total cost saving on the public cloud. Till now, we couldn't really achieve that. We always found that the public cloud is a little more expensive when it comes to the high compute resources that you need. And for which the public cloud, private cloud is actually helping us. So that is how we are kind of juggling the balls.
Wonderful. I think you gave a very broad perspective of picking up the cloud basis, the kind of workload that you need to run, depending upon analytics, depending upon high compute resource, and depending upon security and authorization. And then picking up the right one. And I heard you mentioning that for some of the high compute sustainable workloads, it might also be not a bad idea to run this on a private cloud setup, because those are like for sure that much of compute you need all the time. That's wonderful points. So, putting the right tools in place to harness the power of data. How is this managed within the organization? What is the typical selection cycle for cloud providers that you go after?
So selection cycle wise, to be honest, we my team, which is the infrastructure team, right? We have actually made sure that we are tying up with all the cloud providers, because as I told you, right, the business is agile. We are not stopping the shadow IT. We want to encourage people to go to the different vendors, different startups, work with them, try different solutions, fail fast, recover fast. That is something we believe in. So do so, right? We need to be having all the platforms ready with us, and we are actually making sure that is there. And it's something which is going to be very long time. Only for that we are looking at a private cloud, but it's something which is like, try something quickly and discard it. One of the examples of that I would like to give is, we when the COVID started happening, right? We actually start. So we are in the FMCG, right? So FMCG also falls under a lot of essential commodities. We have edible oils, right? That is essential commodity. So we actually wanted to, quickly open up our plants and start working in our plants. So what we wanted to do is we also wanted to make sure the local regulations are followed. Local or the regulators who come and audit us, audit our plants. are also been shown that we are pretty much compliant with this entire the COVID social distancing norms and stuff, right? So we quickly, we actually connected with Microsoft. We quickly implemented a video analytics solution, right? So again, that solution we don't know. Maybe we will use it for next 2 years, 3 years or not, right? But we for sure knew that at least for this entire pandemic we want this. Right, so we quickly rolled it out in all our plants. We started making sure that the video analytics is making sure the distance is maintained between the people who are working inside the plant, right? So while we were not sure how do we handle it, we quickly moved on to that technology, implemented it, and we don't know, maybe something else comes up. We may discard the existing solution. So this is how we are doing it.
Wonderful. Great examples, Mayuresh, and really pertinent ones. Let me move on to Mr. Sanjay Mishra, Head of IT and Chief Information Officer for L&T Construction. Mr. Sanjay, what have been the various business use cases that you have tackled with the help of machine learning and AI? And what is the sort of financial impact that it has brought into your organization?
Sachin, can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you.
Good. So Sachin, construction being a project organization, it has its own different challenges. I mean, there are at a given time, there might be 1,000 active projects going on. And the challenge here is with respect to how do we execute the plan and execute the project. Okay, so here it's a very intensive with respect to worker, what is being done with respect to getting getting that work done from our subcontractors. It's a less of material intensive. It's more of how we are making sure that we are getting the right men to execute the work. So what was happening that getting the similar activity from project A to project B, right now I'm doing excavation and a different kind of soil, how to make sure that we are trying to standardize that across the organization. That was a super big challenge because nobody knew whether I am paying the right amount for the same kind of work being done from the project A to project B. And we had a massive amount of data, but it was just impossible to compare project A execution with project B execution when it's very easy. When we are dealing with material, it's straightforward. Material is material. So at least this is one big place where we have leveraged AI and the data to make sure that we do entire data mining for our organization for past 20-30 years across all the project sites to figure out how to standardize those service items and create taxonomy and make sure that for next set of work, there is a way we are providing the project manager, the project director to have a reference benchmark. This is the actual kind of work was done in project A, and this is the amount what probably was paid, and this is what we have to pay. So this is, I think, one super big effort what we have taken and what we have done. Apart from that, there are huge efforts we have taken under the men, machine, and material to make sure all our assets are connected across the project sites. We are getting the data, we are finding out the productivity, we are seeing what is the best way to make sure that they are being utilized for safety of the workmen across the project sites by seeing the data and the trend in the past. These are some of the things we have done in the past few years, such in leveraging the data as well as the analytics.
Wonderful. Would you want to, kind of help us understand, let's say, all this data journey that you have begun and how machine learning and AI help your organization? Have you unleashed the power of cloud while doing so? And what are some of these important precautions or the thought process that you had in mind while you kind of used cloud for data and AI?
Sure. So Sachin, I think probably my understanding is this cloud versus on-prem discussion might go away in next couple of years. I think cloud is there. It has been there for now more than a decade. So it should be given. I don't think the discussion should be cloud or no cloud. I believe that is where probably we are going. We might be at the peak of right now discussion on the cloud. It's a given. I remember maybe 15-20 years back, 2 decades back, it was computer versus not computer. So I think that will go. The way we approached cloud was, this is my problem statement. I think Mayuresh was also saying whether I am going to get a benefit by moving certain elements to the cloud or no. That was the objective. Objective was not to go to cloud. Objective was I have a problem statement. Should I move to cloud or should I not move to cloud? Certain elements we have kept on premise for the good reason. We have a LEED 4 certified data center pretty nicely working in the campus. I don't have a need to kind of untake that and put in the cloud. So that was one. However, there are certain elements in the cloud we found they are much more easier. There are certain features in the cloud. Also, suppose disaster recovery. I don't need to engage my infrastructure entire year, 1 year, 2 year, 10 years for that one bad event to happen to restore it. So I can utilize cloud environment in a way that I pay only when I need to do that. So I mean that is a textbook example of what we are trying to use with respect to creating our disaster recovery in cloud. That will actually save me my cost and will provide me the flexibility I'm looking for. So 3 elements, if I say, 1 with respect to finding out what are the best elements from infrastructure. Second, making sure what are the best elements from the functionality perspective. There are certain out of the box functionality available in the cloud, mostly on the AI as well as on analytics. On the ML front. And third, then we figured out it might be a mix of both. We have our infrastructure in-house. Why don't leverage that with respect to taking some of the best features of testing and non-production instances in the cloud. That is how we have approached Sachin.
Wonderful inputs, and really loved the way you explained computer, no computer, and cloud, no cloud with the similar analogy. And I couldn't agree more that cloud is no more a choice, it's more of a mandate that and you know the ways of choosing and selection of the right cloud platforms would depend upon what are the choices, those features that they provide, and of course you know the versatility that cloud vendor gives you, and you can pick up the best. I mean the option of going hybrid, multi and you know you're picking up the best of the best across the platforms. You know, no better time in the history the clients are enjoying than today. I really want to congratulate all of the co-panelists of coming to this session. It was really you know enjoyable, and really enjoyed talking to each one of you, and great insights that you have provided to our you know listeners. And thank you very much once again. With that, I'll wrap up this conversation, and over to you, Isha. Thank you.